Now I invite Professor Dharam Singh from Patiala University, Punjab, to speak on Dada Bhagwan and his holistic philosophy. Professor Dharam Singh.
Respected Chairperson, scholars on the dais and in front of me, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start my paper, I must first of all thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be with you and share my views. And then I would like to make one observation for the organizers. This Asian Philosophy Conference is on Asian perspectives on holistic modes of thinking and living. But I feel the Sikh perspective missing. It will be better if they consider my request or my suggestion to include a paper on the Sikh perspective on holistic modes of thinking and living if they plan some time to publish these papers. About my paper on the philosophy of Dada Bhagwan, let me admit at the very outset that my study of the life and works of Dada Bhagwan is not very comprehensive. So I might be missing out certain aspects of his philosophy. For that, I will request you to bear with me. In fact, my paper is based on my study of just one book. As it happened, during my first meeting with Kanu Dadaji, I was suggested that one of the books of the Holistic Center should be translated into Punjabi. So this book, Dialogues with Dada Bhagwan, came to me to see it in Punjabi. A friend of mine translated the book, but I had to finally see through the translation before giving it to the center. And I had to redo a lot of it, and finally I made over the translation. And that very time, Lala Bhai Patel ji, he suggested that I should write a paper on the philosophy of Dada Bhagwan based on this book. So this paper is the result of my study of that book. Dada Bhagwan was a Gyani Purush, or a realized self. His claim to having received spiritual enlightenment has been widely accepted. He calls himself an instrument of God. These are his words, instrument of God, sent into this world with the divinely ordained mission of amelioration of humankind. About the divine mission assigned to him by God, he says, I quote, "We were in search of a worthy instrument and we discovered it in you. Though we are perfectly non-attached, sitting in pure soul liberation, we can't help anybody now. You are the omnipotent manifested form with a living body. Though you live in a body, you are perfectly non-attached. So we say you have superior power and you can be instrumental for the welfare of the world." So this was the divine mission given over to Dada Bhagwan, and these are the words which, according to Dada Bhagwan, were spoken by God to him. As I was reading these lines, I was reminded of two incidents from Sikh studies. In fact, I have been a student of Sikh studies. Sometimes, whatever you study, whenever you go beyond your field, you look at that issue from your own perspective, or whatever you have studied earlier. This reminds me of two things. First is the incident with Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh faith. All his traditional life accounts say that Guru Nanak had an encounter direct with God, and God gave him a revelatory message, and it was to preach that message among humankind for humankind's welfare, that he traveled a lot, he wrote a lot. This also reminded me of what Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Guru of the Sikh faith, says. He has written his own autobiographical account called the Bachittar Natak, wherein he says, "Then God issued this command to me, and I took birth during this Kali Yuga." Going on, he quotes the words God spoke to him, assigning him the mission. "I establish thee as my own son, and I assign thee expansion of Panth of the saintly. Go thou into the world and spread righteousness, and stop beings from committing evil." I have translated the words from Punjabi. In both these cases, neither of them claim to be divine or divine incarnation. Neither the Sikh Gurus nor Dada Bhagwan claim himself divine or divine incarnation. They were human beings who received a divine mission. It was a command, a message received direct from God, and it was this message which they had to preach in this world so as to ameliorate the suffering of humankind. Since Dada Bhagwan received certain instruction from God, we can also place his ideology in the category of revelatory religions, though he nowhere claims to be the founder of a distinct religion. Second thing which I learned about his thought is that Dada Bhagwan places himself superior to God. God cannot come into this world in bodily form and help humankind. But Dada Bhagwan has been blessed, he has been divinely blessed with all the powers to ameliorate humankind. He also places Gyani Purusha on a higher pedestal than the scriptures. He says that the knowledge coming from the scriptures has been called, he calls that knowledge indirect, whereas the knowledge given by the Gyani Purusha is a direct knowledge. A seeker must go to the Gyani Purusha after effacing his ego and with complete humility in mind. The direct word of the Gyani pierces all layers of ignorance and goes straight to your soul. This is what he says. As I studied his book, I found that Dada Bhagwan has articulated a distinct way of life for his followers based on his mystic intuition. Dada Bhagwan is not a transcendentalist. Rather, he relates his religious or spiritual thought to human mundane life by keeping close to each other the esoteric and the exoteric aspects of life. His thought encompasses human life in its totality, and he does not merely talk of life after death or salvation of soul after death. Rather, he prescribes a way of life to make human life happy and peaceful. In fact, the former, salvation after death, becomes a natural corollary of the latter. This view of Dada Bhagwan is somewhat close in certain respects to the liberation theology movement which started in the Latin American church, and it has some similarities with the Sikh thought as well. For example, in one of his verses, Guru Nanak has said, if I quote the original in Punjabi, "Hasandiyan, khelandiyan, penandiyan, khavandiyan," enjoying your life in this world, living your life in this world, viche hova mukt. You can achieve liberation while still living in this world and performing your worldly duties. The only thing is you should not indulge yourself in it. And then, according to Dada Bhagwan, it is the Vyavasthat Shakti and not God which is at the center of his philosophy. He does not deny the existence of God, but refuses to accept him as responsible for the creation, sustenance, and destruction of this material world. According to him, God is only the knower and perceiver, who is ever in a state of blissfulness. He is the unmanifest power that resides in each being. He feels that God is immanent in all beings. Many religions say this. but he is immanent in them as per unmanifested, whereas he has fully manifested within me in all his glory. But God has fully manifested himself in all his glory in Dada Bhagwan. It is the Vyavasthit Shakti which is held responsible for governing the entire functioning of the world through its natural principle. It controls and keeps everything in its proper order, which makes all things happen or function in their own natural way. About the creation of the world, Dada Bhagwan says that nobody has created this world. The world is everlasting, and hence there was no need for a creator, and I have seen it as such through my vision and wisdom. He clearly states that this word is not an illusion. Both the pure self or Brahm and the word are real, though the latter is only relatively real. If the former is everlasting, eternal, the latter is evanescent. And this word is no hindrance on the path to man's spiritual realization. If somebody wants to attain self-realization, this word or life in this word is no hindrance. He gives several examples, including that of King Bharat. In fact, Dada Bhagwan says that a renunciation of the word is no good. In fact, he satirizes those who renounce their home and set up another home in the forest. They leave this world, they leave this home, go to the forest, set up a home there, own several things, and then imbibe love with those things. About the karmas, he says, beings or persons belonging to various different species take birth in this world depending on the accumulated effect of karmas done by them during their past existences. Any act of goodness, punya karma, done in the past results in peace and happiness for the doer in his present existence. On the other hand, the resultant effect of evil deeds, pap karma, is only unhappiness, and events in his life go contrary to his wishes. While undergoing the effects of past punya or pap karma, the person once again amasses more punya or pap karma. One must face good or bad results of these karmas in one's present or next birth. Affluence or poverty, happiness or agony, equipoise or anguish depend on the kind of deeds of a person done during his past existence. Dada Bhagwan discusses the theory of karma in detail and says that a person takes birth in this world carrying along the sanskaras of deeds done by him in the past, and he must bear the consequences of these good or bad deeds. The discharge of karmas is required to reach the state of equipoise. One must discharge the karmas. It is also these karmas which determine a person's next birth. In which species, in what kind of family or environment a person will take birth, it all depends on the kind of birthas. It all depends on the kind of karmas. According to him, reversal to the lower form of life is also possible. Human life is the highest, but one can go to a lower existence depending on the kind of deeds he does. Human life is the rare opportunity for us to attain liberation. According to him, there is no other body except this human body that is privileged to liberation. For this, we are advised to meet and follow the Jnani Purush, erase evil thoughts, so that we are not pulled down and degraded to a lower state of existence. Rather, we are elevated to a higher state because it is the intrinsic nature of soul to rise up spiritually. The intrinsic nature of soul is to rise up, to go up. But if we perform the pap karma, the pudgils take it down, pull it down, one has to go to the Jnani Purush with utter humility in mind and an attitude of complete detachment to everything of this world, with a view to realize his own self, his own true self. Only then can one purge all past mistakes and realize the pure self, which leads to lasting peace and happiness. And then he advises us to be philanthropic. We should work for the happiness of others. We should work for the welfare of others. He says, if you use your life only for your own benefit, then the time of death will be difficult. You will not be able to leave this world and your belongings with the peace and in equanimity. On the contrary, if you spend your life for the benefit of others, you will not experience any difficulty and all your wishes will be fulfilled all through your life, says Dada Bhagwan. One thing more, this morning, the Honorable Governor was referring to the clash between civilizations, between cultures, between religions, and the need to appreciate the other in his otherness. He was advising us not to impose our will on the other. In fact, this is the need of the day when we live in a social setup which is marked with religious plurality. We must accept the other. We must accept the other in his otherness. That is the only way we can have dialogue with him. If we try to impose our will, our idea on the other, this exclusivistic view will lead only to clash or to suffering. Dada Bhagwan is well aware of the religious and cultural plurality which marks the present-day world. According to him, no religion in the world is untrue. His own words are, all these religions are true, but they are relative religions. Because the understanding of truth of each such religion is only from one particular perspective and thus partial. It is true about every religion. He does not totally reject any religion, though he points out flaws in some of their practices and proclaims his way as better and more efficacious. But he never says that his way is the only way, or he is the only savior. And one analogy that he has given more than once in his book is that if you want to climb up, you can go by stairs, you can climb the stairs, or you can go by lift. He says it depends on you. The choice is yours. If you come my way, it's like going by the lift. It's the easiest way. And if you follow the scriptures, because he says the knowledge of the scriptures is indirect knowledge, it is like climbing up the stairs, which is a more difficult and a time-consuming way. It is only with this kind of attitude in the background that there is a possibility of meaningful and transformative dialogue. We can have dialogue with each other only if we accept the other faith also as genuine. If we realize or if we accept that there is truth in the other view as well. Dada Bhagwan prefers dialogue to giving long discourses or lectures. He says it very, very explicitly. He encourages the seekers to ask him questions on any spiritual or secular issue. And he answers even the most complex of questions in a very simple and logical way, thus making even the most complex truths easily understandable to the seekers. In this sense, Dada Bhagwan can also be called a pluralist thinker in the sense that he acknowledges all religions as relatively true and uses dialogue as a means to bring about transformation in the life of the seeker. I would like to sum up. Although Dada Bhagwan is primarily a spiritual preceptor, yet his philosophy is not limited only to the spiritual life of the individual. Rather, it aims at his holistic transformation so that he gets uplifted spiritually as well as morally and ethically. lives a peaceful and happy life in this world, and enjoys everlasting bliss hereafter. He explains the difference between material development and spiritual development, and how one continues to accrue atoms of good or bad karmas in an attempt to give peace or pain to the other. He helps seekers live happily without hurting others, without adopting dishonest means for material gains. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dharam Singh, for presenting Dada's thought, how one can seek happiness through the harmonious path in the world.